You're listening to Heritage Radio Network.
From kitchen chaos to well-oiled machines, get ready for newfangled technology and old-school know-how. Stories and a good bit of fun. I'm Simon, and this is Culinary Mechanic. Joining me today is Nio DiPietrantonio. I got it right on the first try. Welcome, Nio. How are you?
I am persisting. How are you, Chef Simon?
I would say I'm probably sliding along the slip and slide. How's that?
You know what's funny is actually at our community today, they did a slip and slide for the seniors.
Hell yeah, they did.
It was really interesting what they did. So they laid out this huge plastic sheet and they got these little like life rafts so that the seniors could sit in it, and then they pulled them on the wet tarp in the life rafts, and they had a grand old time doing it.
No, like running and diving, sliding into home plate.
I feel like that would be a little much for seniors, but I mean, it was still would have been hilarious. That's what we did with our generation, but they had fun with it.
I was gonna say that's what I would do. Like, you know,
I'm sure there would have been some lawsuits involved otherwise.
I think so. I think so. Just a visual on that is killing me right here. All right, let's press on the gas. It's Culinary Mechanic. Tell me about how you came to the restaurant or the kitchen or the food service industry.
Oh God. So I started when I was 16 years old. I had just graduated high school, and I got a job at kind of like a local restaurant, ice cream shop, one of those kind of like burger joints. And I was there for a long
Cool.
time. But I started as a hostess. And one day, one of our cooks never showed up for their shift. So my manager said, "Hey, can you go work the fryer? Because we don't have enough people back there." So that's kind of how I got started cooking. Somebody didn't show up and I did, and I was willing to give it a try. So that's what I started there. And from there, I spent some time kind of just learning the ropes, learning how to make a decent burger, learning about fried food, learning how to work the grills and clean a fryer. And I did pick up some like part-time jobs at other places to kind of learn more about cooking. I started doing some like culinary classes to get a feel for
Nice.
things. I was very
Right.
fortunate that I had a mentor who was willing to spend some time with me and take the time to teach me, which was fantastic. I loved him so much, but unfortunately, he passed away from a drug overdose. So I was very
Oof.
sad about that. Yeah, yeah, it claims a lot of lives in our industry, unfortunately. But from there,
Yeah.
I've been cooking for at least 18 years now. I love it very much. From transitioning from restaurants into the senior living space is where I am now. I like to cook for the seniors. It's very something very passionate about.
That's awesome.
Thanks, I
I
love it.
saw something on, I feel like it was probably LinkedIn,
Probably.
where you're talking about like the immediate feedback. And I can just imagine, somebody's grandma coming down into the kitchen, giving you the business about something.
Oh, it's intense. Like you have to have some thick skin to cook for the senior community for sure.
Really?
Yeah.
I
So I
love
don't know
it.
if you've ever had the pleasure. It is a lot of fun, but you do have to be very open to criticism because we do have to meet with a culinary committee meeting every 2 weeks. And it's made up of residents who want to sit down with us and tell us what they like about the menu, what they don't like about the menu, what they want to see on the menu, what things they wish they had that we don't have, that kind of thing. And they can be very honest. They're a little
Oh, wow.
spicy sometimes, but it's you can't take it personally. You have to be willing to listen to what they want because ultimately that's who you're cooking for. You need to make sure they're happy with what they get. But sometimes,
Totally.
it's the greatest thing they've ever had, and other days they're like, "I wouldn't give that to my dog." And I'm like, "Damn."
Yeah, I mean, I think back, I spent a couple of years um, living with my grandparents, and they were 89 and 90 in those years.
Mhm.
And, my grandmother was still cooking for her husband, and when the kids would show up, we're all in their 50s and 60s. I think I was in my 20s at that point, but she was still cooking, and every once in a while I was staying there, and it turned out that on my nights off, I would, I would get to cook. And it's at first my grandmother was like, I don't know. And I was like, Grandma, I cook for hundreds of people a day.
She wasn't willing to
What?
surrender her kitchen to you.
Yeah, I think that was part of it, right? But I think pork chops was the like the real deal like game changer on that one. Because I made pork chops and she went, "Oh, I didn't think." She says, "Mine usually go about 6 minutes on each side." And I thought, they're not even a half an inch thick. Okay. And so when I did them, I sat everybody at the table and then I threw them in the pan and like let them sit for a minute, put them out. And she's like, "This is the best thing. You're the only person in this house allowed to cook pork chops." So, you know, but
The king of pork chops, undisputed.
I'm telling you, that's why I put a pig on my arm,
I
because why
love
not?
that.
Yeah, it says, "What would you do for bacon?"
It's a good saying. I like
Um,
that.
all right, so let's kind of slide on the history scale here a little bit. Like in between the beginning, right? You get in and the transition to I do want to go back to the senior living, but
Of
like in
course.
between that, like what are the things that like kept you like rolling with food? Because for me, there's always those like barbed hooks that keep you in the industry, and you're like, I can't live without this. So
Oh,
what are those?
absolutely. Absolutely. So, I mean, it definitely started when I was young. I mean, I started cooking when I was 3 years old. My grandmother and my nonna were both chefs. I mean, in a traditional sense, like my nonna did cook back home, but my grandmother was just always the one who cooked. I mean, she taught me
Right.
how to do a lot of different things too. And my nonna said, if you're old enough to walk, you're old enough to hold a knife. So that's when I started learning how to chop vegetables and prepare meats and carve
Nice.
chickens and cut roasts and stuff like that. I mean, that was just an essential part of the culture. That's what we learned as a family. And I kind of carried that with me when I went into the restaurant industry. And definitely the sense of the people. I loved being
Right.
around kind of that camaraderie, I would say for sure. There are people who are definitely more back of house than front of house
Yeah.
who have that
Yeah.
personality. I think that I kind of fall in between. Like I can do front of house stuff. I'm comfortable with it, but I definitely prefer getting my hands dirty and just getting in and doing things and making things. And it's a sense of passion. It's getting to create something from little things and doing it as part of a team. And it can get very chaotic. I mean, I was at one point I was working in a restaurant that was doing like 70, $80,000 a week. And that's, I mean, that's a
Yeah.
lot for some people and not so much for others, but that's busy. That's a busy
Yeah.
restaurant. And you have to be able to keep up with that. And that's not easy. Some people can get very burnt out with that. But having a good team behind you that can communicate and is willing to kind of help you pick up the slack when you fall down, having that sense of true teamwork is there. I mean, there's nothing like it. There's nothing like that
Yeah.
anywhere in the world.
For sure. I feel like I'm staring at my wall going, "Ah, I remember the days when like you could just watch 7 or 8 guys and gals and everybody's just flowing from left to right and back and forth
Yep.
and people are going down and up and and just the food's just flying into the window.
And there's a
Ah,
rhythm to it for sure. It's like its own little
absolutely.
dance that you don't even realize you're doing until you're in the middle of it.
Yeah. I read something 2, 3 days ago, and it was this guy talking about his definition of leadership. And I thought, I'm not sure if I'm gonna continue to read this. And then he got to the bottom, and there was 3 words. It was ritual, repetition, rhythm. And I
Hmm.
went, I don't know if that's leadership, but I love those 3 words together. I think that finding a team that starts to hum, right? Like for me, culinary mechanic, I talk about restaurants and kitchens that work like a well-oiled machine.
Mhm.
Like when you feel that and everybody knows what's expected and everybody knows the goods and the bads together. Um, man, there's just nothing better, you know.
There it's true. I mean, you do have to be a little crazy to keep going back to that. I admit that. But it's that sense of just knowing that one, you can do it, and two,
Yeah.
that you want to. I mean, when you have a really good support and a good background and you know that you can handle it, it's you feel like you just want to keep doing it.
Yeah. Yeah, I think for me it was always there was a point, not always, but there was a point where like how many big events can we take on too?
Exactly. Yes. It's almost like a little challenge. It's like, all right, how quickly
Totally,
can we get this order out or this catering order out?
right? Um, I worked for a place just south of San Francisco for a little while, and the general manager was like, "Our sales are lagging." I'm like, "Well, what do you want me to like? How would you like me to?"
Do you
She's
have a
like,
magic wand?
"Yeah, poof. um, more steaks." No, she said, "Well, I wanna. The airport is 2 miles away. How do we get?" And I was like, "I don't know." And so we talked to our like the company marketing person. Next thing I know, like by the grace of the universe, we have a table like in the evening of 6 chefs, and they all worked for something called Gate Gourmet. And the chef is looking, one of the guys, he's like, "Can I talk to the chef?" And so he sends me
Which
out, and
one?
I was like, "Okay, what's going on? How can I help you?" He goes, "Would you be willing to do some catering for some NBA teams?" And I was like, "What?"
What?
And it turned out that like they partnered with local restaurants to do food, and it was the first time I'd ever done something like that. They sent me cases of this very specific aluminum containers. I'd never seen like they were like 7 by 9 inches. Like nothing I'd ever seen in any store. Like it was very specific. And they sent me all the lids and everything. And like it can only be packed in this. And you can only set this many like of these things to a box. And it was very, very specific. But we used to blast that stuff out before we opened at 11:15. And we'd
Nice.
sometimes do as many as 60 meals, right? So I always think about like yeah, the challenges that you can put upon yourself just to do a little bit more money or to do the next thing. It was pretty cool. After a while though, I said, no, no more. Thank you. Bye. Because it wasn't well, we were heading into summer and business was there. I was
Right.
like, eh. So I decided to go the four wall marketing route anyway. Like, let's make our food better. Let's make sure that everything we put out is awesome, and the guest counts will go up. And knock on wood, it actually worked. Um, so I don't know. Like, I think about kitchens, and lately I've been thinking about leadership and systems. And as you and I were warming up for this, we were starting to talk about systems. So I don't know. I'm gonna like open it up and say, tell me what you love about like systems in kitchens. Let's pause for a second. If you're serious about building a kitchen that leads from the top, runs on systems, and actually feels good to work in, make sure you're following Culinary Mechanic. This show is all about helping you lead better, scale smarter, and stop white knuckling your business. And if you're ready to dig in deeper, you'll find a link in the show notes to connect with me directly. Tell me what you love about like systems in kitchens.
I love a well-maintained system that makes sense. So it has to make sense and it has to flow. And you have to be able to step into it at any point and still be able to get things done. So when you have a really clear SOP or a way to get things done, or just even having like your strategies in place or your cleaning schedules in place, and then it's actually followed, everything else falls into place. And you need to be able to, it does have to be a little adaptable. So you do need to be able to shift things around. But
Right.
no matter what happens, it should still be like an instruction guide for what needs to be done. So anybody should be able to step in and do what needs to be done, regardless of who it is, without question. And then you should just know that and trust your team that it's going to get done. It shouldn't be like a,
Yeah.
well, who's going to do this and who's going to do that? Well, who's in charge of this? And oh, this didn't get done because no one checked this box and no one looked at this item or no one checked this prep. Like if you have the right systems in place, everything gets done. You don't
Right.
have to question it. You don't have to wonder.
Yeah, I always love when I go into a new kitchen or a new client and I start asking questions and everybody starts pointing to one person. Do you love that? Like when
That drives me
everything's
up a
centralized.
wall. I hate that.
I was costing a menu for a quick serve company. They had four restaurants and a commissary. And I was like, so how do you like I see all these different buckets and some of the buckets have red writing and some of them have green writing on them. How do I know which one? And they said, "Oh, so and so gives us the buckets for each project as we start the day." So basically, he writes the prep list, and then he goes and get. I'm like, what if he gets hit by a car? Like,
Yeah, exactly.
like what if he's sick? And they're like, "Oh, the we have an assistant manager." And I was like, "Okay." And they pointed him out. I'm like, that son of a bitch rode in the same car with that dude this morning.
What happens if they get into a car accident? Then nobody knows what
I'm
to
like,
do.
I'm not sure that I said, so like how, like, tell me, like, how, well, I don't know. The owner looks at me and he goes, I don't know. He just figures it all out. I was like, no, so let's document a couple things. Just document the processes, you know? Yeah, I get a kick out of that. I love how sometimes everything funnels through one person. It's like, man, do you
Mm.
understand what you know, like that person is now strapped to that table. Like they might as well have a ball and a shackle and the whole thing.
Well, when I was a general manager, I was that person, but that's also the way that our structure was set up, and it was unsustainable. I mean, there
Hmm.
was times where I had to either be the manager on duty, also try to run a drive-through window, try to do inventory at the same time while we're open, make sure the truck order is coming in, make sure our beverages are coming in. That wasn't on the same truck order. This was an independent company. Also, make sure the shift is running okay because we have a full dining room. Make sure the hostess is okay because she's trying to deal with all these parties trying to come in at the same time. Make sure the grill's going okay. That's a lot for one person to handle, and it's really not sustainable. That's the first way that you're going to burn out your managers.
Yeah, yeah. Uh, talk about burnout managers. I think about like great employees, and as I call them, the great doers of the world, right? These are the people that get promoted, and we promote them because they can do stuff amazing, whether they're cooks
Right.
or whether they're great servers, does not mean they're going to be a great manager, by the way.
Absolutely.
Or if they are, it's because they just go into what I call like super mode, right? Like they go from being the best cook to the best cook plus the manager rather than leader. And I tell people, I'm like, so you got to teach them how to teach.
It's
You
not
know?
intrinsic. It's not something that just falls in your lap and you know how to do. And one of the problems is a lot of people, especially I was 18 years old when I was promoted to a manager. I was 18. And it
Yeah.
was for the same reason that I was promoted to a cook because someone didn't show up and they needed
Yep.
someone to fill in a slot. And
And
I
you
was
were
an
willing to
18.
do the work.
Absolutely. But I was an 18-year-old kid and I was still a teenager. I mean, I was a legal, almost a legal adult now, but I was an 18-year-old kid in charge of like 30, 40, and 50-year-old people. Like, they're not
Right.
automatically going to listen to me just because you slapped a set of keys in my hands and you stuck a manager badge to my chest. I had no business being a manager at 18, but I tried my damnedest.
Right. Yeah, I was a little older than that. I think I was probably 23, 24. I was the chef de cuisine. Yeah, no, that was garbage. But it was enough of a traumatic experience that I was like, no, I think I'll close my toolbox and go back into the kitchen and stay there
I get
and
it.
and cook for a few more years until I'm really ready because that was bad, right?
It is.
I remember
I
making
agree.
decisions and understanding as the day would go on, going, I'm making poor decisions because I have no fucking clue what I'm doing.
I agree.
Yeah. So now I try to find ways to help people understand, teach as much as you learn, and teach others how you teach. Because if you're leading, hopefully you've already gotten some of that and you can like you can start to get culture moving, move the culture flywheel by teaching how you want to be taught, right?
And when I was that young, I mean, a lot of my education came from how I didn't want to be a leader. And I think that's kind of the way, especially for a lot of young people in the industry, is we learn through watching and we learn through seeing how we don't want to be treated or how we don't want others to be treated. I remember
Totally.
I was 17 the first time I met one of our like our big wigs, I'll call them, one of the head honchos. It was our regional director of the restaurant that I was working at the time. And this person came in and they were helping out on the floor. They were trying to get things moving because it was a busy lunch period. And they had brought out a bowl of chowder to a guest. And he brought it back, and there was a server standing next to him. And he dipped his fingers in the chowder and wiped it on the server's arm and goes, "Does this feel hot to you?" And the server looks over at him like confused, like, "What? Why did you just wipe that on me?" And he shoves it back at the across the counter at us and goes, "This is lukewarm. I expect better of you guys. This needs to be hot. I need a fresh bowl of chowder, please." And we're like, "Okay, sorry." We apologized and we put out a hot bowl of chowder. But this little like teenage server went out back and started crying because this guy just talked down to her like she was dirt and wiped chowder on her arm. I'm like, how childish is that, first of all? And I was livid. I was pissed. I was ready to throw hands with this guy, even though I knew who he was. I'm like, why do you think that that's okay? I was
Yeah.
a wicked hothead when I was that age. I mean, I still kind of am, but I've toned it down a little bit in my adulthood. But I see things like that and I'm like, why do we think that this is okay? Why do we as leaders look at people like this and think it's okay to treat them like that? How would you respond to that if someone wiped chowder on you and said, "Do you think this is
I'd knock him
acceptable?"
out.
Yeah,
Uh,
absolutely.
It's funny is I work for a kind of a big company in LA, and I was talking with the corporate catering chef, and he had been around a while. He had been like the original. He'd been around since the company was one restaurant, and at that point there, I think there were 25, 26 restaurants. And we're talking about that behavior, right? Like that chef behavior that we all have seen and we've all
Oh
heard.
yeah.
I've heard stories about, and Gordon Ramsay has given us cartoonish um, caricatures of. He's not like that every day, by the way. I got to
Oh
meet
no, I
him.
know. I know he hams it up for the cameras.
Yeah, he's definitely a showman. Um, and this guy said something that has stuck with me for 20 plus years now. He said, in this company, genius accompanied if you are genius, if you are amazing, like the food you're putting out is stunning, asshole is accommodated.
Ugh.
And
Like
I
it's
was like,
allowed, it's acceptable.
yeah, and not just tolerated, accommodated. And I
Yep,
thought to myself,
I
this is
see
not
that.
just this company, right? And so it's that whole thing of like, if you're amazing, we're going to tolerate it because you're going to bring something to us. And that always like when I'm dealing with employees that are just like they've got nails coming down the chalkboard, right? Like that's what their behavior is doing for me. I ask myself, am I accommodating this person because they're amazing at what they do? It's like that asshole grill cook that gets away with everything because the guy or gal, or I mean I've seen gals who do it too.
Oh,
They
absolutely. It's
they
not gender
they
specific.
treat everybody like shit because they are the moneymaker,
Mhm.
right? Worked in enough steakhouses where that was reality, and no, thank you.
Oh
Um,
yeah, I did a part-time gig when I was trying to save up money for my wedding. And I worked with a head chef who was brilliant. Like you said, he was amazing. But the turnaround in that kitchen was ridiculous. At one point it was literally just me and him left, and every time he got angry, he would throw something. And at this one point it was a pot holder that just hit me in the side of the head, but that was my breaking point. I'm like, the next time it could be a knife or a pot or something else. I'm
yeah,
like, I'm done with this nonsense. I don't deserve that shit.
no, no, it's fascinating, um, and I feel like a lot of that has gone away. I'm sure there's some of it. I'm sure there's still folks throwing temper tantrums like they're 3 years old. Um, and for me personally, I wish that their parents had just used the word no a couple more times, and then life would be better. But um, uh, even beyond that, I look at some of the things that have been normal, right? Like I remember the first time that I couldn't get out of bed because I was so sick
Mm.
and I yielded. And my wife and I had been married probably 15 years at that point, and she said, "You know." I think you've proven your mettle enough times. And I said, what do you mean? She goes, we've been married 15 years and you've never called out sick once. She goes, zero in 15 years. How about if you just started a new tally? And I was like, okay. Because
Wise woman.
I just remember I couldn't. I remember sitting on the chair that I used to like get dressed in the morning, and I remember leaning over to put my socks on, and I fell off the chair, off the side, and I was like, well,
I'm so
yeah,
sorry.
I think I have to yield.
Yeah, we all reached that point. I mean, unfortunately, I did too. I was 27 and I unfortunately suffered it was small, but it was a minor stroke. And that happened because I was pushing myself. I was working
Yeah,
18-hour days. I was working 7 days a week because it was just madness. We were short-staffed, we were busy all the time. I didn't have enough staff and I wasn't trusting them enough to take on some of the responsibilities that I should have let them do. And
right.
it was a recipe for disaster and unfortunately it led to a minor stroke.
27?
27.
Wow. You're a statistic somewhere.
I'm
That's
sure.
amazing.
I'm sure.
Either that or a case study.
One of the two. Yeah. I mean, some of
Hmm.
it was due to I was abusing caffeine at the time. I was taking caffeine pills and drinking energy drinks just to get through the day, just to get through the shift and get up for the next day. And it was just it spiraled out of control.
Huh. Yeah, that makes me think about like now I'm in my 50s, right? And I've had some time to think about my 30s, 20s and 30s and 40s. And in the last 3 years, I've done a lot of reading. And some of the reading I've done is around some of the stuff from Harvard Business Review.
Mm,
And I don't know if you're aware of this, but like one of their studies found that like we as human beings, after about 7 hours of intense work, our decision-making capacity like starts to go down. I'm like, 7 hours? What are you talking about? I used to work 14 as a regular thing. And it's like, huh, how do we like, can I have a megaphone, please? Like, can we say this stuff louder?
for
Right,
the people
right?
in the
Like
back.
for the people in the back, you don't make better decisions when you're fucking tired.
Facts.
Right? And so like teach like when I start to talk to chefs and owners about this kind of stuff, and they're like, "Oh, well, it's just too expensive." I'm like, "Expensive? I bet you I can save you money by getting you to hire a couple more people and getting everybody to operate at an optimal level rather than the traditional level." And sometimes people buy it and sometimes they don't. And usually the people that don't, A, I don't get my contract renewed with them because and B, I usually fire them. I'm like, if we're not gonna make progress, like then you don't need to give me the money. I'll go find it somewhere else,
Well,
man.
yeah, I mean, I can just imagine it's like beating your head against a rock. I mean, at what
Yeah,
point do you feel like your words are just falling on deaf ears?
yeah. And I think I've been lucky enough now recently to find some people who like I've got some different ideas about things in the world. Like I talk with people all the time about let's work on managing people into the huddle, not pushing them with a stiff arm out, right? Like get buy-in, get consensus, get people to work with you, not against you. Like stop treating everything as an adversarial sort of thing. And it's
Spread
phenomenal, like,
passion, not apathy.
right? But passion is like the what is it? It's the tachometer on in your car, right? It's got a little red line. For me, there's a really thin line between passion and asshole, right? And so like
My
that red
husband would agree
line
with
is
you.
asshole. It's what's that?
I think my husband would agree with you.
Totally. It's like how many times have you heard, "Oh, they're just passionate." I'm sorry, fuck off, right? You're lying to yourself. They're not just passionate. They're being allowed to be an asshole because they're brilliant, or because they get the job done, or because they're passionate. I'm sorry, no,
Or
man.
because people are afraid to stand up to them.
Right. And when you realize that like every time that happens, there's an employee standing somewhere in that space that has just clicked the switch in their brain that says there's an expiration on how long I will tolerate this. every single time, you
Absolutely.
know? But yeah, it's a red line, like passion, amazing, awesome. But at some point it burns too hot, right? And if you let it burn too hot, we get that other thing. Okay, we've talked about some fun stuff. Well, I guess we got to be serious for half a second here. You've done like you got a nonprofit.
I do.
You work with the Burnt Chef Project. You work with CHOW. Tell me about some of the. Tell me some fun stories about getting to work with those folks because I think that it's something that needs to be elevated into people's consciousness.
Absolutely. So the burnt chef really kind of stopped me from leaving the industry first and foremost. It was during COVID when I actually started paying attention to the burnt chef. And that was, I mean, COVID was no good for anybody, but especially the restaurant industry.
Absolutely.
I was still doing the general manager thing at that time, recovering from my stroke and still working and trying to have a work life balance. Now on top of a global pandemic. And that was at that time that I found the Burnt Chef Project. And I was listening to a podcast that Chris Hall had been on where he was talking about how we shouldn't have to sacrifice our health and what we love about the industry just to keep being in it. We shouldn't let that burn ourselves out. Like we have to take better care of ourselves if we want to do what we do and keep doing it. And
Right.
that's really kind of like what lit a switch in my brain is like, this is the first time I've ever heard somebody say that and mean it. You know what I mean? Someone
Right.
who's been in the industry. And then I'm like, okay, maybe, this is real. This is something that is sustainable. Like I don't have to leave the industry to keep cooking because I really didn't want to, but I had to make some healthy life choices to do that. So I started getting involved with the Burnt Chef Project and I became an ambassador. And part of that is reaching out to other chefs and trying to, if they need help, helping them get the resources they need, whether they're dealing with like anxiety, depression, if they're dealing with like a substance use disorder, or just connecting with other people who are feeling stressed out. And having that really tough conversation of, well, why do we let ourselves kind of go down this dark path where we let ourselves get to that point where we idolize being burnt out or wearing it like a badge of honor kind of. I was
Right.
also one of those people, 100%. And through the Burnt Chef, I found the CHOW organization, which stands for Culinary Hospitality Outreach Wellness. And I spent some time talking to to Kimberly and to Jazz, who are like the some of the people that help run the organization. And they are just such passionate and loving people who really just connect with hospitality workers on a deeper level. They talk to the stress of being like a bartender or being front of house and just feeling that pressure, that stress to perform all the time, to have that persona of this person who can't do any wrong or is the person who's always in charge or the person who has to be smiling all the time and friendly all the time. And if someone's screaming in your face over things that you can't change, you're not allowed to react to that. You're just expected to smile through it and be like, "Oh, I'm sorry." And that's really stressful for a lot of people. And that's also another way to burn out employees is not, supporting them in that space, which is Chow is great at. Having those support groups is essential. My first Chow meeting I went to, I just kind of unloaded on them and told them everything I was going through. And I left feeling so cathartic. So feeling so whole after that. Like I literally just cried after my first meeting because I'm like, wow, I'm allowed to have feelings.
And access them.
Yes, and to actually process them in real time because when you're on the line, you don't always have that, that expectation. You don't have the time to do that.
Right. Ah, I love it. I can honestly say that's not something I have really ever been great at. And I burnt myself out probably 3 times in my career. And the last one stuck. It's where I said, okay, that's enough. And for me, that was the good one because that's the one that led me to where I am right now. Like
Absolutely.
getting to be a consultant advisor to chefs and getting to play on a podcast and meet people from all over the country and all over the world. That's great. But it just blows my mind how many people, like you said, wear it as a badge of honor. I was talking with somebody and the guy said, burnout, that's SOP. Like he's like, that's table stakes for the poker players in the room, right? And I was like, huh, I never really thought about it that way as myself personally, but okay. Like I get it. There's so many people that's just normal. And I
It
think,
is. It's glorified for sure.
yeah, I don't know. I enjoy the rest of life so much that I now I can't do it. Like I just refuse to allow myself to get that to that place.
Oh, I get
But
it for sure. And I think that's a big part of it. I mean, we confuse passion with, I think, maybe just a sense of belonging in a sense. You know what I mean? Like, this is where I feel like I belong. This is where my talents lie. So this is what I need to pour all of my energy into. It's like, well, yes, that's important to develop skills and to develop your abilities as a chef, but it doesn't have to be everything. I mean, you can develop
right,
skills elsewhere. It's okay to take a little break from that for a day to just get
right,
some rest. I mean, you can't be at an optimal point of efficiency if you're constantly burning the candle at both ends. It affects
yeah.
your creativity, it affects your stamina, it affects your ability to actually be a chef if you don't rest or hydrate or eat or sleep.
Wait, say that again. Say it again. I mean, it's the truth, right? Like you gotta, uh, you would never expect a high performance athlete to try and like jump over the bar or do the whatever, like run down the field without proper
Absolutely not.
hydration and a certain amount of rest. I mean, I think there's a reason why they play football once a week, right?
Absolutely. That's a fantastic point.
You know, and I mean, I would never say that I'm an athlete, but boy, when I go see my orthopedic surgeon, and he looks at me and goes, "Are you an athlete?" I'm like, "Doc, do I look like an athlete? Like, I got a chef's belly here. Come on." He goes, "Because your knees are torn up. What have you been doing?" And I'm like, "I've been on my
Cooking.
feet for yeah, cooking for 35 years." Yeah, no, it's amazing the things that we have allowed to be normal, right? Those famous words. Oh, that's how we've always done it. I hate those words.
I do too. Ugh, that drives me crazy. And it's glorified. It's the, this is how you become successful. This is how you get your own restaurant. This is how you get your name in the lights. This is how you get a Michelin star. This is how you become a real chef worthy of being the accolades that you want and having this sense of purpose and drive and passion. And like what you were saying, it's very easy to get burned by your own passion if you don't take care of yourself. And it's just, I think we just need to continue to talk about that and to break through that stigma where you have to essentially drive yourself into the ground to become successful, because that's not the case. You don't have to do that. And it's crazy to continue to perpetuate that stigma.
Yeah, I got one for you. You ready?
I'm ready.
So I was listening to a podcast and I was listening to a New York City chef bemoan labor laws because they're not allowed to do the shift pay anymore that was really common in New York City. And I
Mhm.
don't feel like it's really like you look around the country and almost everybody else figured it out before they did.
Right.
But he's like it's you can't become the same kind of chef as you used to be able to become because you have to be able to spend 15 hours a day in the kitchen to like hone your skills. I'm like, there's got to be another way, man. There's just got to be like, okay, maybe it takes longer, not shorter, to do it, which of course is not what the youngsters nowadays want,
Oh yeah,
right?
instant
We want
gratification.
immediate gratification.
I mean, yes, that's true, but I do also work with two young, like right now I work with two young culinary graduates, and they're very talented. They're incredibly talented. They can make some very delicious foods, but they're still learning. I mean, they're
Right.
21 and 23, and every time they make a mistake, they go into kind of this like anxiety ball where they're like, I'm never going to be anything. I should quit my job. And I'm like, brother, calm down. You made one mistake. Like, we'll fix it. It's okay. It's just that it's that weird sense of like what we were talking about, the stigma where, you're not allowed to make mistakes. You have to be perfect all the time and you have to work hard all the time. And it's okay to make a mistake. That's how we all learn how to cook, is to make mistakes and get better.
Yeah. But there has to be somebody there that says it's okay, learn.
Yes, exactly.
Um, yeah, I have a chef that is a client currently, and he's like he's one of the most soft-spoken guys I've ever met. And I said to the owner, I was like, does he run a good? Like, does he run a tight ship? I mean, I talked to him and I've been coaching him through some other things that he could get better at, and I'm trying to get him to manage his time a little better. Um, and they're like, actually, he practically whispers in the kitchen, and everybody just jumps and does exactly what he says because
That's amazing.
he takes care of them and he lets them fail, and then he like teaches them how to do it better. I'm like, that's amazing. That's just amazing.
But
Like
that's
I
fantastic. That's what we need. We need
totally
to fall on our faces sometimes and then be have someone pick us up and be like, all right, let's do it this way now.
like, let's not do that again. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Because unfortunately, some people just aren't going to listen to you, even if you be like, hey, you really shouldn't do that. Like, oh, I got it. Don't worry about it. Like, all right. And then once
I
they make the
mean,
mistake, then they'll be like, all right, I'll listen to you this time.
I think most of my life I've believed that the one sure way to understand that falling out of the tree hurts is by climbing the tree, right? Like
That's fair.
that's like, oh, they're gonna fall. Yep.
Hmm. They sure
Uh-huh.
are.
Yep. And they're gonna understand that that shit hurts.
Hmm.
And they might think twice about climbing the tree, or they'll just climb up saying, "Oh, I'm not gonna fall." And guess what? They're probably gonna fall again.
I won't fall this time.
Oh, because no, yeah, no, it's that's human behavior, and I get that. Like that's just sort of built in and wired, and I like to
It's
tell
true.
my wife that men are idiots anyway. So don't worry, we're gonna do the stupid shit no matter what.
It's
That's
not
kind of how it
exclusive to
goes.
men.
I'm sure it is. I'm sure
Yeah.
it is. Yeah. Well,
We make our
anyway,
women make their mistakes differently, but we still make them.
yeah. I think that men just have a hardwire to like just do it bigger and more out in the open. Like I feel like we were taught as children to like take the dirt bike and run off the ramp really fast and just see what happens.
Well, if you think about it, it's kind of an evolutionary advantage. I mean, if you were constantly afraid to do the thing, we probably wouldn't survive as a species. I mean, if you were needed to say cross the river, and if everybody was like, that's probably not a good idea because it's really dangerous, you need that one person to be like, we got this. Don't worry, we're gonna figure it out. And if that first person doesn't make it, then the second person will be like, all right, well, we saw that first guy didn't do it very well, so let's try it this way.
Yeah,
I mean,
let's try a
it's
different way.
kind of an evolutionary advantage that men are more willing to take the risk, but then we also have people who are willing to stand back and go, all right, let's watch these guys try it first, and then we'll see what
Life Lessons by
happens.
Darwin? Is that what you're describing to me?
Essentially,
Oh, I want a children's book called Life Lessons by Darwin.
I think you should write it and make it like about chefs. That would be amazing.
The Chef's Guide to Darwinism.
Yes,
Okay. I think you got me I think you got me convinced. I think I
I'll
might have
buy
to
it.
write that.
I'll be the
Yeah.
first one in line.
Awesome. You might be the only one in line, but that's okay.
No, I think a lot of people would be interested in a book like that.
Darwinism for Dummies.
Yes, chef edition.
Oh my goodness. All right, we've covered some territory. We went from the fryer to senior living to mental health to Darwinistic life lessons. My goodness gracious. All right, in the show notes, I'm going to make sure that we can find you so that people can connect
Absolutely.
and check out what you have to offer. Um, Thank you so much for joining me. I really do appreciate it.
I'm so honored to be with you. Thank you for the invitation. It was so much fun. I love reading all your stuff on LinkedIn. I'm
Thank you.
so grateful to have a voice like yours in our space because we need more of them. We need more strong voices to say, hey, the way we were doing it doesn't work. Let's try something new.
Yeah, yeah. Can't just be Darwin. I mean, I think that, I guess
Why we're
the
losing
last
so many
message,
chefs.
right? The funny thing for me is that when chefs start to like focus, manage their time a little bit better, they manage themselves a little bit better, and then lead a little bit better. All those things feel like they're just sort of like incidental. But the reality is it's a business. And when all of those things
Absolutely.
start to click, the business starts to make more money. And the first couple times I started to see that, I went, wait a minute. why I think I have to talk about this in a different way because it's not for me, it is mental health. Like that's super important. But at the end of the day, like for me, I'm a businessman. I want to help people make more money, whether it's my business or their business. And doing all of those things that take care of us will will be the byproduct will be potentially more like more revenue, more profit, all those things.
SOPs for mental health.
SOPs for mental health will make you more money.
Exactly.
Subliminal. That's what we need to do. We need to create the subliminal Darwinistic handbook. Got it. Once again, thank you so much for playing in my little sandbox that I call Culinary Mechanic. And to all you out there, I will catch you next time. You've been listening to Culinary Mechanic. This show exists to help you lead with more clarity, build systems that actually work, and create a kitchen culture worth showing up for. If this episode helped you move even one step in that direction, do me a favor, leave a quick review. It helps more chefs and operators stop the chaos and start leading with intention.